Guess what? The circus is back in town for an encore. I completely forgot about these guys. I guess that goes to show how forgettable they are. Maybe not, I don't know. Unfortunately, if you are waiting for another narrative-driven mobile suit video, you'll have to wait until the next one. I promise you, it will be the Gelgoog, right? That was the original plan. It was supposed to be the Gelgoog video this week, but then, well, while writing the Gion video, I remembered about these guys, so... Yep, we're going back to the future, where the Earth Federation is slowly but inevitably losing its grip over the space colonies. Thoucus mobile suits are most famously bonkers. Most of them look weird. Each has its own unique ability that seemingly surpasses everything else. If you thought the normal Thoucus suits were oddities, the following ones are even more so. So, what separates the following three from the regular Thoucus line? Well, firstly, they are unofficial. Right? These MSs were not created through the regular lines, if there were any in the first place, right? They weren't approved by the Jupiter government, or at least by the, Heartline faction, the secret Heartline faction, the not-so-secret Heartline faction that exists. These mobile suits were created independently by Thoucus itself. I guess mercenary pay is good enough for these guys to start 3 mobile suit programs. That's the first difference. The second difference is that these mobile suits were specifically created for Earth operations, right? Each of these 3 mobile suits specialize in different parts of terrestrial warfare. You have one for land, one for the sea, and one for the air. Let's begin with what I think is the most normal one. That being said, the water, the sea mobile suit isn't actually that weird, except for that one part, but we'll get to that. The first mobile suit, the EMSTC-G01 Kira-Kirjarugu, that rolls off the tongue, silky smooth. As a mobile suit, the Ki-Kirjarugu, I'm not doing second takes. Kir-Kirjarugu is somewhat lackluster, somewhat dull, somewhat normal. Aside from the humongous neck ruff it wears, the mobile suit is very basic. It only carries a single weapon, a giant shock whip, something akin to the old Goof's heat wire. Absolutely no ranged weapons of any kind can be found on the mobile suit. Now, during a time when many, if not all, mobile suits ride fast giant wheels for transport, the Kirjarugu dials that concept all the way to the opposite side. The Kirjarugu can transform itself into a lion mobile armor, which offers high agility, especially in rough terrain. A wheel like the Einrad is fast, but traveling at such speeds will result in a wide turning radius. In car terms, if you're a car guy, this is like understeer, right? This phenomenon happens when you're driving a car or a vehicle of some sorts a bit too fast, and then when you turn the wheel, right, the front tires, they don't grip to the road properly. Now, this will result the vehicle in having a very wide turning radius, or in the worst case, not turning at all. Into the tree you go. This is not that big of a deal if you're in a wide open field. In such terrains, being fast is probably a good thing since there's no cover for you to seek. So, being fast is your cover. Your speed is your cover. However, in an enclosed area, a cityscape or a jungle, high speeds can very much be a detriment. Unless, of course, you just go through the trees of the buildings. That's also an option. But if you're trying to maneuver around, that's not a good thing. Right? With no space for wide maneuvers, if you understeer, right, you will not have a good time. This is where the giant robot lion excels. It can do what the giant wheels aren't able to do in such environments. It can sidestep. It can jump. It can change its direction at a moment's notice. Like a cat. You know how those things are. 1 second they're just walking, and the next second they do a front flip. To enter this mode, the head flips around and the whip is stored at the back, becomes the tail. Then the arm guards slide down, covering the hands to form paws. Then the legs contort in odd directions to mimic the hind legs of a feline. Once completed, the Ki-Kirjarugu becomes an agile, mechanical beast. Now you might think the claws on its front paws and the tails are the only offensive means of the the lion, but no, the mobile suit has another weapon, which is undoubtedly its main weapon. Now remember the neck ruff. It's very hard to not remember it. It's pretty prominent. Well, as it turns out, those things are actually beam sabers. In lion mode, the sabers cover the head of the Kirjarugu. Whatever I said just now. So all of it has to do damage, right? To do an immense amount of damage, to just run into things, right? This specific mobile suit was piloted by a guy called Animal Belva, a veteran of the Jupiter Empire. At Jaburo, he stood toe-to-toe with Curtis in the Crossbone X-Zero. Granted, it wasn't the most fairest of fights, right? He was exploiting Curtis's blindness, right? Animal was able to sneak around between the trees and attack Curtis freely. That was until Curtis cleared the trees in his immediate vicinity, clearing up his sonar system enough so he could see the Kirjarugu, which I still don't understand how he sees because, well, he's blind, right? Echolocation, new type shenanigans, I suppose. I mean, there's a blind character, new type character in Aggressor. She sees through, like, she sees like lights or something, like, you know, something like that. Some form. I'm not sure. She sees the soul or something like that. She sees lights, and that's how she knows things are around. But Curtis here specifically uses sonar in his cockpit or something on those lines, which I don't know how he sees them, but he somehow sees them. Anyway, by doing that, he caught Animal off guard and then blasted the lion in half. Next up, the EMS TCM-01 Carmelo. It looks pretty normal, doesn't it? Well, watch this. This is quite literally this thing's entire shtick. Its legs extend its height to 30 meters. Now, Jupiter, unless you drill into Europa, famously does not have any water. I have friends on Europa. They live in submarines and they keep talking about swimming dinosaurs, giant worms, and an alien god. They're kind of weird, actually. I think all the darkness, you know, the lack of sunlight, being covered in cold and radiation, they, might have affected their mental stability. They're still my friends, though. I like them. They were good friends. Anyway, there's no water on Jupiter. So, how did designers make an underwater combat mobile suit when they have no way to test it? Well, you just ignore the combat part. The Carmelo is actually an offshore artillery piece. It is supposed to swim up to shallow waters, deploy its legs, and then start blasting at anything in its vicinity with its beam rifle. Now, this beam rifle is seemingly nothing special. It has long range, but the power output seems to be normal. The Deathfist could block its shot with its claws. The rifle is seemingly the only weapon it has, if you don't count the legs. Speaking of, those long stilts house hydrojets in them. Now, these hydrojets have multiple purposes. One is, of course, to swim around the ocean. There is also this scene where it looks like it's swimming up, or at least staying in place on a waterfall. It's pretty cool. How strong are those hydrojets? Very strong, it seems, because it can also double as a defensive measure. These jets are strong enough to form a localized underwater turbulence, right? Were it to be swarmed upon, the Carmelo can just activate its jets to push away anything incoming, right? Be it mobile suits or torpedoes, especially torpedoes. While the enemy is temporarily disabled from tumbling around in the turbulence, the Carmelo can easily shoot them, like fish in a barrel. They may look like they can be folded easily, right? But these legs are actually incredibly strong. When used in unison with the hydrojets, they can kick through rock It did exactly that while fighting the Desvis, after which they both were pushed into the remains of Jaburo. Unfortunately, almost immediately afterwards, the Carmelo was destroyed. You know what? Minus the legs, I kind of like how this thing looks. It looks like I like the cattle head it wears. I like it. Like if I were given one of these, I will completely delete its entire purpose and just make it a normal mobile suit. You know what? I think this might be the best. I mean, one of the better ones in this Thoucus in Thoucus in terms of look. Even better than the Lalo, maybe. At least in my list. Lalo's pretty. No, Lalo is top 2. This and the Lalo is top 2. I'm not sure which one's which though. Maybe one day I'll figure it out. But as for right now, they're top 2. Anyway, onto the final mobile suit, the EMS-TC-S01 Espiral. Guess what Espiral means? Now, this mobile suit, and I use that term very loosely, is one of the more unique ones in the UC timeline, like the entire UC timeline, I would say. Not only does it have 6 limbs, but the limbs don't stay in a single position as it swivels around a ring. Imagine trying to make like a model, like a HG model for this thing. Can you even make a model for this thing? I mean, I guess you could, but you can't make it stand, I guess. Maybe you can. Maybe the rings, the legs won't be able to move that much in like a model form. Anyway, apparently this thing is a simplification of the Cornix, which I don't see how it is. The Cornix just flips its limbs around to turn to a bird. This one, I mean, just look at it. It has way more movements than the Cornix, and you're telling me this is like a simplified version? Doesn't make any sense. So anyway, what's up with the odd shape? Well, originally, the Espiral was designed for space, and the swiveling limbs were meant to be part of an omnidirectional thrusting system. It's supposed to be similar in concept to the Ki-Kirjarugu, where sudden movement changes were the idea. Since the limbs can move around, you theoretically have countless ways to misdirect an enemy. Not only that, but the Espiral can always keep an eye on the enemy. Its torso will always be facing them, so the pilot will never lose sight of its target. But unfortunately, that idea didn't really work out. Turns out putting thrusters next to beam cannons make things hot. Now, I'm not going to pretend to understand the physics behind it, but it turns out that cooling is very hard to do in space. Since there is no atmosphere and wind, the heat has nowhere to go. It just sticks to the surface of whatever. So, what did they do? Well, since they can't bring the atmosphere to space, they decided to bring the mobile suit to the atmosphere. The thrusters were replaced with air jets, normal jets, which obviously would limit the operations in atmosphere. But hey, at the very least, it can now do what it's supposed to do with no heating problems. What does it actually do? Well, I mentioned 6 beam cannons, and that's what it does. It shoots them. They are very strong beams, all things considered. Were all 6 to shoot at the same target, the beams are apparently able to bypass eye fields. Or at least the eye fields of the Phantom. It can also turn to the spider thingy. I imagine the cockpit is on a gyroscope since the head is literally looking at the ground in this mode. The pilot for this thing was actually the Phantom's original pilot before it was stolen by Frontier. Based on that and this specific panel right here, I think the cockpit is similar to the Phantom, where you can, it'll like, it's on a gyroscope and it like rotates around, whatever. This Diva Dada guy, that's his name, Diva Dada, can operate such things without getting motion sickness, as it appears. The Espiral put up a good fight against the Phantom, but Diva overcommitted. Font managed to deduce that if the Espiral shoots all 6 barrels, and he manages to dodge them, then there will be a very brief moment where the Espiral could not change his direction since all of the thrusters are pointed in the same direction. Figuring that out, Font baited the Espiral to shoot, then risk himself by dodging at full speed, which subjected him to the combined G-load of Tres Mareses and his own body. There were 2 people piloting the Phantom in this specific fight. Anyway, by successfully evading the shot, he was able to easily intercept the Espiral and destroy it. That should be it. I mean, if you don't count X11, which again, I still haven't touched it. I've been reading a lot more books than manga lately, to be completely honest. I'm just more of a book guy, as it seems. Anyway, that's the entirety of Thoucus, right? I don't think I miss anything. These guys are weird, and Thoucus, what a weird bunch of mobile suits, huh? And these like land ones are even weirder, especially the Espiral. That's probably the most weirdest suit I've ever seen in this universe. Is there something weirder in it? I can't. I mean, there's dust, which has an amalgamation of like multiple suits into one. So I guess that could potentially be, a subject on its own. But on the quote unquote factory mobile suits, this is pretty much up there, ain't it? No, looking at it, I feel like this whole this trio, which whenever. I think they're based on like the lion ring jump thingy. Obviously, the lion is the Kira-Kirjarugu, whatever. The ring is the Espiral, and the Carmelo is the ringmaster? Question mark. I mean, the ringmaster doesn't have a stilts, I don't think so. But if the kettle hat kind of looks like a top hat, doesn't it? Thoucus! God, we're done. Right. Next time, Gelgook. Back to like the serious stuff. That was for this week's briefing, pilots. Thanks for joining. If you like what you saw, like to see more mech stuff, that's what I usually do, then please consider joining the fleet. Click the sub button. We always need more pilots so that we can keep on defending ourselves and maybe one day take the fight to those goddamn Earthnoids. They're doing a lot of stuff lately. They've infected me with a flu recently, and I'm fine now. Don't worry. But they're doing funny things. Well, things they consider funny. We'll show them what's funny. Join the fleet. But if you're not going to join the fleet, then you could just like the video, hype it, so then the algorithm, this Earth-based algorithm, will push this video to other people, who will then see it, get get motivated, and join the fleet in your place because you're too much of a coward to join the fleet. They'll take your place then, right? You can stay back and do, I don't know, construction of more mech suits for us pilots then. You're very important. Even in your cowardice, you're very important. I have a Discord. Yes, you can join that to see me post memes most of the time. That's usually what it's about. Me just posting memes and the occasional guy or two posting stuff about stuff. Also, check out this link above my head. Was it below me? I forget which one. MechWarrior 5, that's a game where you pilot a mech. It's not Gundam, but it's cool. Why am I Zoro all of a sudden? Because I forgot to mention it in my actual recording, and I can't be bothered to set up the camera again. So hey, Zoro is here. Check out the link, create a link. You get MechWarrior 5. Cool game, fun game, I like it. Don't know what it is? Well, I stream it, you can watch it. Anyway, back to my normal self. I also stream my pilot training sessions. Yes. You can watch me on Twitch or here, which whenever you prefer. On Twitch, you do get a bit more funny things that you can do, like jump scaring me. You need to pay for that though. I'm not letting people jump scare me on the free. Screw that. Don't want to get a heart attack. If I'm gonna get a heart attack, might as well get paid for it. Glory to the Jupiter colony. Glory to every single pilot of the fleet and every single Jovian. Take care, keep up the good fight, fight those Earthnoids, and remember, do not die.